Weekends are absolutely cool. You can rest, you can travel, you can do quite a bit of things. And this last weekend, instead of taking the time to rest or work in my garden for the whole weekend, I decided to attend something called UX Camp Europe 2022. Now, UX Camp is actually a relatively new concept for me. The entire event I actually didn't even know about until somebody in my company brought it to my attention. And I'm very grateful that they did because UX Camp Europe is an event like none other. And I will describe a bit more about everything I loved about it, what I thought maybe could have been improved, and just cover some of the content of the sessions that I thought to be quite useful during the live stream today. So, this is a live stream, which means that if you are by chance watching this, there is the chance for you to write notes, ask questions, add comments, and make this more of a discussion than me just talking with you and kind of just on my pedestal here. And quite literally, I'm okay, I'm not on a pedestal, I'm on a stool, but it's similar. So, with that, UX Camp Europe 2022. So, overall, okay, I just loved the event. You're going to see that throughout this entire thing. So, the event started, and it was actually quite cool because this is one of the first events I've been into actually in Germany since the pandemic. And I think they've done a really good job helping people feel safe at this event. I've been to events around the world during the pandemic and after the pandemic. And during the pandemic, a lot of people were very, well, after the pandemic, it's still ongoing. But during the heat of the pandemic, people were actually very careful and they wore masks. And the event coordinators were checking whether or not people were vaccinated. And it was very thorough. And then when it came around to about February, March, I was at an event in Paris, and that was the first event where nobody wore masks. And that was extremely nerve wracking for me. It caused me a lot of anxiety being in an event space. The day before, there was a law that you're supposed to wear masks, but then the law was gone pretty much the day before the event. And you had to then, you could go around wearing masks. And a lot of people did that. It was very scary in Paris for that. In fact, I even got COVID from that event. Um, so with this being months later than that, I did not expect the amount of care that they took to ensure the safety at the event. And I really seriously appreciated that. So people wore masks, um, people needed to be vaccinated. It was it was a good feeling to go to an event. And just from the get go, people are looking out for each other. And that's just a great sign of what type of event it is. So this started differently. So I I didn't actually think twice about the term UX camp. When I was like, that's just another title, a way to make it sound cool of an event. But they really just start this event like a camp with somebody playing a guitar. And yes, you can see that here. We've got him playing a guitar, and they have a song that they sing at the beginning. And they're so happy to be at UX Camp again. And it was quite fun and quite good. And from that, we talked a bit about sponsors, of course, and gave you an in-depth idea about what the camp would be like. And be honest, I didn't read through. I just figured it'd be like any other conference. To be honest, I thought you'd go and there'd be set speakers. I was confused because I didn't see the set speakers on the website, but I figured maybe they're just doing everything last minute. I didn't understand that they were purposefully doing everything last minute because instead of having their list of speakers and people, submit early on and prepare for talks and have this formal review process and then choose. I don't know how these people or how these are always chosen, but they choose speakers based on a number of criteria, how researched they might be or how well known they are. And of course, there's always the criteria that may be unspoken, but how good would it be for my event if this person with that reputation were to speak at it? And UX Camp doesn't do that. Instead, UX Camp gives you a piece of paper and you can write in a couple details about what your event's going to be. And then you get in this line to pitch it. So you get in the line, and the pitch isn't really about yeah, people saying yes or no if they want to actually talk. It's just to see which room to put you in. So pretty much you could write anything on this piece of paper. Luckily, people didn't do that, but you could write anything on a piece of paper and walk up, and they'd say, you give a 3-second pitch, say, Yes, I would like to blah 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 blah, blah yada yada yada, and then everybody raises their hands to say whether or not they would be interested in the event. And based on the number of hands that go up, they do a quick scan. They write an S, L, XL or on the piece of paper, and then they put it on a time slot on a schedule. And that was new. I thought that was probably one of the most inclusive, uh, interesting ways to put together the speaker schedule in an event that I have ever seen, and I thought that was amazing. Everybody from any topic zone was presenting, speaking, hosting discussions, workshops that it just was really cool because it wasn't, oh, yes, you're not good enough to talk at our event. It was, you've got an idea. We find value in who you are just by the fact you're here and just by the fact that you're a human being. And yeah, here's your platform. Come share the knowledge you spent your career building or your education building. There were students there presenting. And people will come and be interested in it. And that was really, really cool. I loved every second of that. And so it went into the first day. We had the pitches. It was time to go into the events. And the first event I attended was from a guy who was writing a book. And his book was on qualitative research for, UX design and how to get people in the research and how to ensure you're being fair with your research, things like that. And the gentleman who did this was Jan Dietrich, and it was really cool because it was a small group. This guy's writing a book, and he's going through the different things in his book, getting some feedback from the group as well on some of the topics, and listening to what they're saying for the potential. I'm assuming because I think that's what this is for, to be able to add more content to his book based on what he's learning at this camp as well. And that's really cool because we're all there providing some feedback with him. And one of the cool things that I really liked about his presentation was that he brought in this concept that the consent form doesn't have to be legal mumbo jumbo for this type of research, this user-based qualitative research. You need to have a consent form, of course, because it is technically human testing, and in human testing you have to inform them of the details and get a consent form done. And I like the fact that he even talked about the consent form because it was such a huge deal in my master's studies at American University. I studied strategic communication, by the way. And it was such a huge deal to go through a review of your study in advance with a qualified board of representatives to ensure that you are treating people well during your study. And for these company business-based research things, they don't do that. Just anybody says, okay, I need attendees for this test, and mm, I'm observing you as a human, what you're doing, and I'm basing my product on your reactions. So I like the fact that he brought in this consent form, and yes, it is legally required. But he didn't just say, "Here, get this out of the way." He said, "Use the consent form to inform them what the study is going to be like." And that was cool because it provides this opportunity for you to one, get the legal thing out of the way, but also be like outlining in human terms, not legal terms, what's going to happen during the study, what they can expect, and giving them a chance to be like, okay, I'm actually uncomfortable with that. I'm going to cancel before they're sitting in front of you and you're describing, okay, we need to do this. And then they feel pressured because they agreed to spent your time. They had a slot in your schedule to actually follow through. And they might be, participating in a way that they feel uncomfortable. And you wouldn't catch that because you didn't give them a chance to actually, in a comfortable position, state that. And so that was my favorite thing from his talk, and super duper useful. And I'm going to look into taking advantage of that in the future. And then I went to a talk with Ramiro Cottarello, and it wasn't really a talk; it was a discussion. It's the first discussion I participated in, and his discussion was on personas. And the concept of this was that there are articles coming through, and I haven't seen these yet personally, saying that personas are a bunch of mumbo jumbo and aren't useful, and that we should stop using personas. And so he brought people into a room. There was a bunch of us in the room. We talked about the usefulness of personas. Um, Everybody in the room, except for one person, used personas, and I'm happy the one person spoke out because there might have been more people who didn't use it, but because so many people used personas, maybe people didn't feel comfortable speaking out. I don't know. And so everybody was talking about how they used personas, the different type of personas, proto personas, qualitative personas, and statistical personas, how they're being built in different companies' processes with where they use personas, and different things like that. So we're just sharing as a group, and even through this blatant sharing, this honest sharing, we were able to learn some stuff. Right, I learned stuff. I'm sure others did as well, and there is this one thing that I was concerned about after the thing is that it was just a bunch of people. A bunch of us were there. We never really talked about why people wouldn't want to use personas or if there's research against personas. So it felt for me like a bit of confirmation bias, in the sense of we're all for personas and we're going in to just tell each other that we love personas. And that kind of I think that could have been done a little bit differently in the sense of maybe a stronger presentation of the purpose or the reason why people are saying personas are bad. I would have enjoyed that. But all in all, I did learn more about how companies are using personas, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. So the next one was the first dive into mental health, and mental health was a huge topic at UX Camp Europe. There was a ton of mental health topics being covered, from psychology to how to get help in Germany. It was German specific or Germany specific. And there was also a gentleman sharing his experiences going through a mental health crisis. And all of this was pretty cool. I like the fact that mental health is taking a front stage at events like this because I think creative minded individuals as a whole struggle quite a lot, and everybody struggles a lot. I shouldn't actually say that only creative minded people struggle with mental health issues. That's not true. But being a creative minded person, I struggle with mental health issues. So being able to go to an event where this was brought into the forefront as an issue, and where they talked about burnout and the stages that lead up to burnout, how to see burnout in you know in people working for you potentially, and how you might be able to help them. Naturally, there's a little bit of things you need to consider before you like go and address somebody working for you and say, "Hey, I think you might be experiencing burnout," or "Hey, you might have." I don't know. You would never say this, but this concept of "Hey, you might not be doing 100%. Talk to me about it." As a manager in a company, might not be appropriate. But that said, Nina Leuven was her name, and she was a psychotherapist, so highly qualified, and talked about how to get help using a mobile application supported by the health insurance in Germany. So they pay for it, and you can get psychotherapy through a mobile app. I think it was called Adiga. There were a lot of acronyms because everything was being presented in English, and in German, every single official name for anything feels like it's not only a lot of words, but very long words. And so people create acronyms to make it easier to say. In fact, at one point, when she was pitching a next session, Nina decided not to use an acronym and said the whole German name and actually got an applause because she pulled it off. She speaks German, but it was still just even in Germany saying the whole legal or name of an official area of the German government, which is like 4 words long, and each word has like 16 letters or 20 letters. It's pretty impressive, and that was really fun too. So she talked about that. The next one was hmm, the next one after burnout was from a couple people doing a podcast, Steffi and Marcel. They do this podcast called Useful Clicks. I believe it's in German. I did look at it, but I didn't get a chance to actually listen to it yet. And they talk about how UX designers and SEO professionals need to work together more, especially when building web platforms, websites. And it went into an information architecture type approach where they were talking about how to do that per se, and what the best practices are from a UX perspective, best practices from an SEO perspective, and how to bring those together to create the best possible, you know, website. And so it was quite interesting. I think that well, I definitely enjoyed that one a lot. I was getting tired at that point, so I could have probably taken better notes and paid more attention. But overall, the conversation was good, and I liked the fact that it actually helped me confirm something that I'm already working on in my workplace. with information architecture for the website for a specific portion of the site, which I appreciated. So it was quite useful for that. There were, there must have been. Oh yeah, then there's a workshop I went to. Sorry, it's a smaller paragraph on my notes here. There's a workshop I went to called "How Do We Want to Work," and it was really nicely put together. I mean, there's the post-it notes. We did do the post-it note thing where you write stuff down, post-it notes, put on a board. But that's kind of the thing to do. So we were talking about how do you want to work, and they took it to two different perspectives from the employer and from the employee. So the UX designers, the people trying to hire UX designers. And I'm looking forward to reading this actually. They got all this information from this workshop and they're going to put it into an article that I will then, of course, share. And it was just cool. We got a lot of insights. I've got some pictures of what the board looked like. So I'm going to go through those too and take a look and try to tailor some things a bit better to match what was learned there. Then the next one by Eric Rice. Reese Rice. Sorry, Eric. I probably should have paid attention when they read your last name, but you were such a presentative person, with such stage presence that I wasn't really paying much attention to the intro. I was more paying attention to what you were doing while the intro was happening. But that said, he had a great talk. And this was probably one of the most packed talks of the entire event. It was the last talk of day one. And the topic, forgive me for this, it's inappropriate. If you are under the age of 18, please be warned, I'm going to use language. Anyway, so basically, what happened was Eric was at an event and somebody was talking with him and he said he was working in user experience design. And the guy responded by saying, "Oh, you damn UX guys, just fucking cake decorators." And that stuck with him. And so he created this talk out of it. And I found it to be absolutely awesome. I was really worried about this title of the talk because there's this other book that's out there called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And this book it's got an orange cover. It's got, words on the cover that really kind of just go ha 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 ha. And you read it and you're like, yeah, I don't give. But when you read the book, it feels a bit hollow on content. So this talk from Eric was absolutely the opposite. It had a lot of really good content, and I will probably at some point take a closer look at my notes and provide you with more insights from that talk. I'll talk with Eric first and see if it's okay with him, because it was his content, and I don't want to just reuse it without asking him. So, but it came to the conclusion that we create a lot of different terms to define user experience. Sometimes because they sound better, sometimes because, oh, it's not a user, it's a customer. But then we have people who use platforms that aren't customers, and there's some of the content there, I guess. And so he went through this and provided a lot of examples from his own experience, and it was very engaging. There were a lot of stories. He's a theatrical guy, so there was even some entertaining things built in with his presentation of his computer yelling at him. It was a lot of fun, very creatively done. So that brought day one to an end. And I got to say, that presentation at the end of day one was super helpful because it was the end of a day. I was listening to a lot of people all day. And then suddenly there's this boom in your face, really engaging guy, kept me awake through that presentation. So I appreciate that. So after that, I went to the hotel room, wrote an article. It's on LinkedIn. You can go ahead and check that out. And then went to the after party. Now, I was a little lazy. I know it's not hard to take mass transit in Berlin, but I was up at the hotel and I just finished the article, and the after party was supposed to start at 8, and it was 20 minutes to 8. And I, being me, have to be on time, forgetting that nobody in Berlin is ever on time. Okay, it's not entirely true, but it's okay to go late to a party. And so I kind of was like, oh no, it's going to take me, you know, 27 minutes with a train, and it only take me 16 minutes with with an Uber. So I booked an Uber. I was standing on the sidewalk at the corner and saw some people from UX Camp coming to go to the train, obviously, and take it. But I already booked the Uber, so I was like, okay, I got 3 seats. Who wants to come with me? And so some random people came. Not okay, they're not random people, just random people I met on the street. Jumped into an Uber with me. I mean, all the things you teach your children, right? And whatever. But no, we all got an Uber and we head over. We went to the party, and the party was great. It was a wonderful venue, and it was outdoors at the beginning. I actually didn't stay long enough to go inside to the dance floor with the fun piano and a bunch of other stuff that I've heard stories about that I kind of wish I stayed longer to see. But it was outdoors. There were some great drinks, and there was an up like a terrace type thing, and it was really easy to have conversations. It wasn't really loud, blasting music that didn't allow you to talk. At least at the beginning of the evening. What I've learned later then is that later after I left, like a half hour after I left, they opened up a dance floor, which probably wasn't as easy to talk. But by that point, people are probably drinking enough that they don't really need to talk a ton, um, or they do. I don't know. Yeah, do your own thing at a party, right? So went back, slept, and during that evening, though, at the party, I decided I would do some sort of something the next day. I didn't think about it like before the event. I just thought, I want to do something. I need to come up with a topic. And so I was talking with some people during, breakfast the next morning at the event. There was food at the event, by the way. Food was pretty good. Thank you for the food. There's a lot of events that don't have food. I really appreciate the ones that do have food because then I can stay and talk with, people. So if you're scheduling events, it's not just because we want free food, because we want better conversations. So add food. And UX Camp had food. So great job, UX Camp. And so basically during breakfast, I was talking with a few people and they were talking, and I mentioned that the company I work for is looking to hire a head of product design. And one of the guys I was talking with was a bit like, yeah, there's a lot of people trying to hire leads right now. And I looked around at the job board and I saw, looked around the line, there's a lot of people trying to hire leads right now. And leads being lead, okay, that actually became something. So I scheduled a session in my mind called "Who is the Lead?" And when it came time to write down sessions and pitch them, I went ahead and wrote down "Who is the Lead" as his title, and my concept of there's a lot of people looking for leads. What are we actually needing in a lead versus what is the perception and what's coming out in the job descriptions? Because personally, I mean, it's nice to have 20 years of experience, somebody with that much experience, but is that always necessary to have something? And which role are you looking for? Are you looking for a lead or a manager? And that became a really big distinction during that discussion. So I went ahead and pitched it. There was some interest in it. And then went into my first session. That wasn't mine, of course, but it was another session called Beyond Post-it Pushing. And it was about these online whiteboards. And it was really cool. It was done by, oh man, I'm spacing on the name. I'm so sorry. But it was really well done. We went through some whiteboard templates and best practices in doing whiteboard templating and some great tips on that. And it was just this interactive presentation going through on a digital whiteboard. And that was nice. And then the next one was, I skipped this one the day before. And luckily, this was done twice. It was a talk called The 7 Habits of Highly Depressive Designers. And for me, that it's one of those things that I look at and I'm like, do I really feel like that I'm at a state where I want to attend something like that? Because I've struggled in the past. I mean, I think honestly everybody struggled in the past, and so I decided to go, and it was nice. It just went through, an experience this gentleman had, and came out to just, just this thing is people struggle and people are there to help, and it was nice for that. And again, really appreciating the fact that mental health is becoming such a big topic. It's important. Mental health, without it, there's nothing. So I'm happy it's becoming a big topic at conferences like this. After that was my talk. And my talk was during lunch, which I thought about afterwards, and maybe that actually played into a benefit for what I was doing. But I was really worried nobody would show up at all because during day one they had a lunch break. During day two they didn't have a lunch break, but they had everything back to back, and they said, "Well, grab your lunch and then go to a session." And some sessions usually end 15 minutes before the next session, but they don't always. And I was like, okay, I don't think anybody's gonna show up. And so I went in, and a couple people were there talking. And I was like, "Oh, great, there's people here." And then they left. They were from the previous session. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I went in and started writing stuff on the whiteboard, or blackboard, actually, technically, because I didn't prepare a presentation. And I honestly think the best discussions happen without technology, when you can help, when you can do it, when you can do it. Sorry. The digital whiteboards help a lot when you are virtual, but if you're in a room together, I feel like some of the best discussions and creativity happens without technology, which is funny because I love tech. But so I was writing on the blackboard some things, like the title on it. I decided to break up two different things: lead versus manager. Put a big line in the middle to make it, I don't know, separate. Is it separate? Is it not separate? But I made it very separate. I made a very strong opinion on that. At the beginning, at least, it looked like it. And then I had a great time putting questions on boards and then hiding them just in case I would need more prompts later on. And it had a and as I was doing that, a couple people came in. We started talking, and we were talking in German because we speak German. And then somebody else came in, and I couldn't. I turned around and started getting ready, and then looked up, and the room was pretty much full. And then people were still coming in after the room was full, and we had people standing in the back, and we had people sitting on the floor, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I should have done more preparation for this." But it wasn't about me telling people best practices and things. It was about us having a discussion, sharing knowledge with each other. And it actually worked out well that I didn't have necessarily the perfect direction sketched for this entire conversation where I knew exactly where it was going to end and things to help guide it along. I'm glad I didn't do that. Because even some things I wrote on the board that I was just writing it down, became really important in the conversation, distinctions. And that was a ton of fun. And I'm seeing here, thanks, Alina. Yeah, thank you so much for watching too, and thank you for your comment. I really did enjoy that session. Um, so I just couldn't believe how many people showed up, and we had a really good conversation. And I have a lot of notes from that I'm going to turn into an article that I'll post. And I think it's important. We just did a distinction between a leader and a manager. It's not. It doesn't have to be the same thing, right? It should be potentially two separate roles. The manager does functional work, like to make sure the team has the resources, making sure they have outcomes to work towards, and things like this. And the lead is the inspiration. They're the knowledge. They're the experience. The mentor on the team. And we dug into this deeper, and then we went into hiring structures and how the promotion schedule in some companies makes it so that we promote people out of roles where they do really good. And it was a lot of fun to have that conversation. After that, though, my brain was fried a little bit because there's so many people there, and I mean, there's like 8 hands up, and I'm trying to remember who had their hand up first and trying to catch people in order. And towards the end of the talk, I gave up on that. I think everybody understood, and we just kept talking. I hope I didn't miss anybody, by the way, who had their hand up, because I want to ensure that things are inclusive. And if there weren't so many hands up, I usually call on people. So I guess if you kind of don't like when people call on you, you're probably happy that there were hands up. But yeah, so the next one I went to 15 lessons from 15 years in the industry. I enjoyed it. I had to leave halfway through to take care of something, but I do hope the slides are posted in the Slack channel. I'm assuming they are. I took today off a bit to spend time with family, so I didn't actually look and do the training on that yet. And then the next one was 7 dimensions of design, and this was good. I paid attention to the whole thing. It ended with music. It's pretty cool too. And it was a very personal song, which is also really cool. So kudos to that, by the way. That is really cool to do such a personal song in front of a bunch of people like that, just because you love doing it. Like seriously, that was awesome. Okay, so 7 dimensions of design, and I was thinking they're gonna. My perception of what this would be with like you know grids and different things like that. And I'm glad it wasn't. It was like design, and we got definitions of what design is, and then what's a graphic, what's an object, what's an experience, right? It's a UX conference. Strategy, system of thinking, policy, and it was fun to have all these things defined. And it makes huge sense to have these things defined. I think defining these topics for yourself when somebody comes in and asks you, and this is what he was presenting, Well, what do you actually do? And this pulls back to this other talk the day before. Oh, you guys are just a bunch of cake decorators, right? And he had this whole thing prepared and has it prepared. So if somebody comes up and I don't think it fits in or is critical, he's able to then actually have a conversation about it. And it was quite good. After that, there were the closing ceremonies, and the closing ceremonies were good too. And the best part, let me pull up my thing here. I'm using Restream for the second time in my life. And we'll talk about that towards the end here. But the best part, let's see if I even uploaded it. Did I? Did I? I didn't. Okay. The best part of the closing ceremony was to learn when the next UX Camp Europe would be in 2023. And if I remember correctly, let me actually look real quick. I had this up and then there it is. Yeah, it's on June 3rd and 4th of 2023. I've already put it in my calendar. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to attend that, which means I have to sign up for the newsletter because, of course, being smart people, the only way to actually know quickly when it's going to be, it would be to, or to know when the tickets go available, would be in the newsletter and read their newsletter. So don't just receive it, read it. Um, and they'll announce it in the newsletter. And what's interesting is I learned this at the event is that these tickets sell out like in minutes. It's like Comic Con. You're there clicking refresh the whole time. It reminded me of the Big Bang Theory episode where they're trying to get into Comic Con and refresh, 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 and it just this mindset. And I'm hopefully the site actually doesn't force you to go through that type of a process. But the fact that these go so quickly, and I know why the tickets go quickly. Um, and so to summarize it, this is a long recap. To summarize it, the event was awesome. This was not this cold. I'm going to get some flack for that. Cold suited event where you go and you listen to people who have talked before and always have their perfect things to say and have everything lined up and really just you know, that's what they do for a living. That's not what they do for a living, but it feels like it sometimes. And very formalized. And instead of that, I went to this camp where everybody could talk, where everybody had something valuable to share. And it's just there was no perception. It was not a club that was hard to get into. I mean, getting tickets was hard. It was hard apparently. But I was fortunate. By the way, the reason I'm saying apparently is I was fortunate that my company decided to sponsor a room, and that was able to allow me to go to this event. And because they sponsored a room, I should probably mention my company real quick because without them, I wouldn't be at the event. Let me type this in real quick. You probably saw this room. Boom. Amnify is who I work for. Really good place to work. I'm not here to promote the company tons because of my channel, and I am doing this for because I want to. But Amnify is a really good place to work. Really good people, really smart people, and I have had the most fun working for this company. I mean, it's just been a lot of fun. So, I'm going to say it. They are hiring a head of product design. So look at amnify.com and look at that role. Moving that away now. Uh, so I'm glad I was able to be there, and the event is the best experience that I've had at an event like this probably since I was in college. So I appreciate it. It's like a more like university. It's like returning to university more than being at a conference. Um, right. So that was the event. I will definitely be trying to go to 2023. It was very rewarding, very nice. I hope to see the same people or new people or just cool people. Everybody goes is gonna be cool. So but great people at the next one as well. And I do hope to stay in contact with a lot of the people I've met and added on LinkedIn, and those that I've met and didn't have time to add on LinkedIn. Let's get connected because if we don't connect, I will honestly at some point forget, which I don't want to do. And yeah, so coming to the close, there are a couple things that I want to announce basically about my live streaming channel and what I plan to do with this in the future. So right now I'm using a tool called Restream. I'm not going to continue using this tool because I want to stream to one platform and I'll share from that one platform to the rest. And I know it's not always the best way to go about this. And some people who or really good social media managers might be saying, hey, but native in platform gets you so much more exposure. Well, I'm not necessarily doing this for a ton of exposure. I'm doing it because I enjoy sharing what I learn. I enjoy sharing my hobbies with technology. I think I'm funny and I have something to share. So I'm going to share. If people want to watch it, they're welcome to. They don't have to, which most people have realized at this point on YouTube. There's a lot there. And so that's where you'll find it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get more live broadcasts from me. I will do more live and I will have a lot of fun doing it. And then the next thing is, I will also have a website where I'll do my articles. Right now, I sent my article out on LinkedIn because I wanted to turn it around quickly, and my website's not done yet. I need to continue working on it, and I've just been slammed with work and travel, and I will be until July. But jeffsoniker.com is coming, and it's going to be it's going to be fun because when you go there when it's live, now I'll let everybody know it's live. You'll actually see the stuff that I wrote in college and before. So I'll be putting probably some super embarrassing, poorly written stuff. Not that. Ooh, I just finished my rings, by the way. Yes, I have an Apple Watch. I love tech. Okay, fine. So I will have stuff on there that, in all good conscience, being a super professional person. Whoops, sorry about that. That I wouldn't put on a website to present who I am. But you know what? It is part of who I am. Right? The stuff I wrote in high school is part of who I am. It's part of my imagination. It's part of what I've done. The stuff I wrote in college, same thing. I mean, I used to do blog posts weekly, 443 words. And today, I mean, back then that was the thing to do. Today, that's really short, and you get the estimate of how long it's to take you to read. It's like 2 minutes, and you're like, oh my gosh. But it's just, it's a lot of fun stuff to read, and it's going to tell you a lot about me. And yeah, so that'll all be on jeffstalnicker.com if you feel so inclined. There will also be talking about different technology. I'm a product manager, so different things about product management because I like sharing what I learn because I hope that from my experiences, somebody may be able to build on that and learn something even more or have better insights than I could even gain out of it and push the industry forward in that sense. Um, and then like I said, huge technology nerd. I love tech. I have tons of tech. I feel so bad for my wife sometimes. She's very patient. I get very excited about the newest, coolest thing. In fact, I know that the Apple event just happened, and I'm purposely not watching it because I want to wait a couple of years before I replace my Apple tech. I'm gonna try, and she's super patient because when I find something that I'm really excited about, I just don't stop talking about it. And so I'll make some fun of that on my YouTube channel as well. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff going, and I've got like 6 videos already planned for it, but I just need to sit down and do them. So that'll be on the YouTube channel. I will bring that back up. Obviously, the website will have the content from the YouTube channel as well. Go ahead and subscribe. I will let everybody know the website's coming up through my current channels. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram. I don't post to Instagram because I went through this phase where I was going to delete everything that had to do with Facebook. In fact, I got rid of WhatsApp. I got rid of Facebook, and now I'm rambling. But for live streaming, it'll be YouTube next time and only YouTube. And then LinkedIn, I'll share things like learnings and articles that'll be written on my blog, jeffstalnicker.com. And then Twitter is sort of the ticker in the sense of everything I think is interesting. I do a lot of reading. And everything I think is interesting that I read, I will post quotes from it, and I will post articles from my RSS feeds that I think are useful and quote what I thought was useful in the article often, not always, often. So those are my channels. Check them out. I'm going to stop now because now I'm just rambling because I do that. I appreciate everybody who watched this. If you're still watching now, kudos to you. You've got a lot of patience. And I look forward to doing more live streams and having a great time sharing things with you guys. And there will be some videos. Like I've done a lot of YouTube videos in the past. And so there will be some actual videos, not always just live streams. And those will be fun to watch. Right. I have one more idea actually. And I have it written down. So this was actually a planned idea. Is I want to pitch an idea, a concept to some of the UX people out there, UX designers, because I'm not a UX designer, I'm a product manager. And something that I could find useful for me as a product manager would be a show called the UX Roast. And the UX Roast would be essentially that people would collect experiences with products and send it to a panel of really cool UX designers and they would roast them. And the purpose of it isn't necessarily to be like, "Oh my gosh, this is crap. Blah blah blah." No, 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 no. This whole concept is to provide constructive feedback on user experience design that has been done in the past, so that we can learn and improve experience moving forward. Which I think is actually the goal of UX Camp as a whole, is to learn from the past and help it so that the experience with products with the world, I guess, as a whole, it seems like they get really broad sometimes, improves. And so UX roast, I'm thinking, I mean, I would love to put together a weekly show called the UX roast and get a panel of UX designers together to work on that with me. So if you are a UX designer and you think that'd be kind of fun, and you don't want to organize it, but you want to sit down for like an hour every week, and I would moderate, I would provide content, and you get to just provide your feedback on it and say what you like, what you don't like, how you think it could improve. Then let me know. Hit me up. Let me put in my email address here. Oh, I'm gonna regret that. I'm gonna do it anyway. One sec. Like I type it in. Da, 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 da. All right, here we go. Boom. And actually, gotta share it. Nope, it auto corrected that. That's not it. Ah, sorry. This is me doing quick live streaming. There we go. Jeff@solnicker.me. Write me at jeff@solnicker.me. If you want to join this UX roast, I will put it together if I get a panel of people willing to work on it with me. Also, you can write me on LinkedIn as well if you're connected. If you're not connected, connect, so we can collaborate and build a really cool show if you want to join that. Anyway, thank you again for joining. My name's Jeff. I had a great time sharing this information from the UX camp. I had a fun time at the UX camp, and I hope that you can use this video in the future to join next year's UX camp because it's worth it and you'll get a lot out of it. Cheers.